Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Bewarecast, live from the void. That's what I'm calling these Monday night live streams. Just let me know if you can see me okay, you can hear me okay. You should be able to. I've got all the settings the same as they were last time, but just to confirm would be nice. So, how do you get the see, how do you get the chat? Where's that? Seems to have lost the chat weirdly. Let's see if I can. Oh, okay, I've got it up. Cool. Hello, everyone. Right. Hello, Oscar. Good to see you again. El Claudio. Hello. Dev Goswami. Nice to have you. The contingency, greetings to you too. Yes, cool, everything's working fine, thank you. Awesome. So yeah, we'll just give it a minute just to let anybody else who wants to join in before we get started. How are you all doing though? You all had a good weekend? So yeah, I had a pretty good weekend really. I've been working for the most part, working on the new video, and me and my fiance we went to see Jurassic World Rebirth yesterday evening for the 8 o'clock showing. So yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about my most recent video that came out a couple of days ago called Flesh. That was also about dinosaurs, so it's going to be quite a dinosaur-y stream, this one. So, cool. Marcus Blackwell, yep, good to have you back. Hello again all, hope your week has been well. Yeah, cool. Good to have you back. Yeah, so, how many of you out there have seen Jurassic World Rebirth then? I think it came out about a week ago. So, I appreciate there's probably quite a lot of you that haven't seen it yet. I don't want to... I mean, there's going to be spoilers in this stream, so you know, if you don't want to hear, if you don't want spoilers for the film before you see it, I don't like to say this, but you may want to check out because I don't want to be the one who's responsible for spoiling it for you. Let's see. Yeah, Daniel Alon says I heard some great things about Jurassic World Rebirth. Yeah, there's yeah. Yeah, I'll let you know straight off the bat. I did quite like the film. It wasn't perfect by any means, but it wasn't a bad film at all. I don't think so. There was a lot to like there. Yeah, we'll get into it in a minute. Marcus Blackwell says, fun fact to get started. The reason why the Universal Studios Orlando Jurassic Park ride had a different name, it was more inspired by a river raft sequence, not in the film. Yeah, I think I've seen some footage of that ride actually. I mean, I watched the video, some video footage of that quite a few years ago, and all I can remember is the big sea that sort of you're walking past, I think, or you're travelling past a massive screen with the mosasaur, and it sort of attacks the glass and breaks the glass. That's obviously the newer version of the ride. Back when I went to Florida in 2005, it was the Jurassic Park ride back then. That was cool, you know, especially at the end when the T-Rex raises its head up and you plummet down that real steep bit at the end. That was really cool. I only went on it once. I wish I'd gone on it again. See, Marcus Blackwell, I'm fine with no spoilers. Yeah, there will be spoilers, I'm afraid. More interested in animated films. Yeah, fair enough. It's called River Adventures, the Orlando ride. I see. River Adventure. Okay. Right, so yeah, we've given it 5 minutes. I think everybody who wants to join has probably joined. So yeah, let's get on with the review. So yeah, our trip to the cinema yesterday, it was the typical cinema going experience in that basically we went in, got to our seats because you have to book in advance for this cinema that we went to. So we booked our seats, and when we got in, somebody was sat in one of our seats, of course. So we walked up to it, and then I was just trying to, before I said anything, I wanted to make sure that was actually my seat that he was sitting in. I didn't want to look silly in front of everyone, say, that's my seat, and it's not. So we just sort of stood there awkwardly for a few moments, just kind of looking around. I was looking for the row letter, and it was our seat. So I was just like, right, okay. Just for a split second, trying to think, how do I say that's my seat? Get out of it. But luckily, he saw that we were just kind of stood next to him, and he jumped up, and then he went over and sat somewhere else. So we got our seats. So off to a great start. And then, and this same guy, I tell you, throughout the whole film, he just kept yawning really loudly. It was like, just periodically throughout the film, you'd hear, ooh, like that. And I was like, what are you doing, you weirdo? Like, he's one of them what I call professional cinema goers. And that's people that go there to make lots of noise. I think, I'm convinced that cinemas employ them to do that for some reason, because there always seems to be at least a handful of people making loads of noise. The people in the row in front of us, the guy had his popcorn. He was going with his popcorn for some reason. But his wife or his girlfriend, who he was with, she kind of reached over and took it off him and and put it next to her on this side. So it's probably annoying her as well that he was doing it. So I'm glad she stopped that. Apart from that, it's fairly flawless. Right, on to the actual movie review. So it was a good film. I liked it. Basic premise, and I will remind you again, there are going to be spoilers. So the basic premise is there's a company, a businessman. I forget what he was exactly, what his position was, but he represents a company that wants to find a cure for heart disease. And to do this, they have to find the 3 biggest species of 3 different types of dinosaur and pterosaur. So what they need is, because their hearts are the biggest, you see, the biggest and strongest, that's the reasoning for it. They need to find and collect DNA samples from a titanosaur of the land, a Quetzalcoatlus of the air, and the Mosasaurus of the sea. I forget what role the 3 elements, land, air and sea played, but I may have missed something there. But those are the 3 they needed, and they managed to get the 3 DNA samples from those dinosaurs. And obviously they got attacked 2 out of the 3 times. Obviously they didn't get attacked by the titanosaur because that's a massive plant eater that barely even noticed they were there. So that's essentially why they have to go to the island. You've got quite a big cast of characters in this film. I would be tempted to say it was a bloated cast of characters, because you had, I think at the start, you must have had at least 12 people. I think it was like 6 of the core sort of team of people, mercenaries and everything who were going, and the scientist guy. And then you had this family who were out on their little boat as well, who get into trouble when they're attacked by a Mosasaurus, and they send out a distress broadcast, catches the attention of these mercenaries who are kind enough to go and pick them up. And then you've got lots of people there already, and I think it could have done with being trimmed down slightly. I know you had to have some people getting eaten by the dinosaurs, so you needed, obviously it wasn't going to be Scarlett Johansson or any of the main people to get eaten, so you had to have some expendable characters who would be. And then when they get there, essentially, like I said before, I liked the film, but to me it did seem like a bit of a, we have to go from A to B and do this and get attacked by dinosaurs while doing it. So, you know, they get attacked by the mosasaur, but they get the sample. And then as they're traipsing through the island, they get attacked by dinosaurs again. And it does seem like they're just running from one scene to the next just to get attacked by dinosaurs. And it's, you know, it was all right. It was some of the scenes did have a good bit of tension, a good bit of suspense. But yeah, so that's pretty much the outline of why they're there. So I'll talk about the things that I liked. I'll talk about the things I liked first, then the things that were a little bit like, that's weird. Why is that a thing? But you know, like I said, I did like the suspense of the film, particularly the T-Rex scene. Now, I thought the T-Rex was quite cool in this because it had a different appearance, slightly different to ones we've seen before. It had different colouring. It had sort of a tiger stripe sort of look to it. It had a yellowish, like a yellow and brown stripy sort of look to its, to it, and it was cool to see one that looked a bit different. It struck me as being a juvenile, well, maybe a bit older than a juvenile T-Rex, because it was sort of, I don't know. This sounds weird to say, but I thought it had quite a young attitude, and it was very curious, that was quite a tense scene, especially when they were trying to sneak past it with the raft. And then when it just turns around and spots them, it's a bit like, ooh. I kind of knew that none of them were going to get eaten because they were all kids. Kids, you always have to have the annoying kids in Jurassic Park or Jurassic World films, but they never get eaten. So obviously nothing was going to happen to them, which diffused the tension ever so slightly for me, but it was still cool to see the T-Rex. And it was, I was a little bit sad because in that scene, in this film, there's only one Parasaurolophus, and the Parasaurolophus is my personal favourite herbivore. And there's only one in this film, and it's dead, and it had obviously fallen prey to this T-Rex. And also in that scene is the only time you see a Dilophosaurus, only very briefly, sadly. Again, that's one that I really like. It was cool to see some familiar faces from previous films, dinosaur-wise. Obviously the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Dilophosaurus. So it was cool, but this film was mostly comprised of new dinosaurs that we haven't seen before, and also a new version of one that we've seen before in the Spinosauruses, that was really cool to see because I was always wondering whether the Spinosaurs were going to make a comeback, and these ones are in this film a lot more accurate to what people believe the Spinosaurus actually looked like. Not like in Jurassic Park 3, where it's walking on its hind legs like a Tyrannosaurus. And I suppose, with everything that happened in this film, with these new Spinosaurs that we saw, it kind of confirms that in Jurassic Park 3, that Spinosaurus was a hybrid. Hybrids have been seen in 2 previous films, Jurassic World and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. They weren't in the one before this, and that's another thing that I'm a little bit iffy on with this film, is the hybrids, but I'll come to that in a minute. But it was cool to see, like I said before, the Titanosaurus, because we've not seen them before. There were no Brachiosaurs in this film, I don't think. So the Titanosaurs kind of filled that void as being the large, long-necked, herbivorous dinosaurs. So that was cool to see. And then you had... it was good to see the Mosasaurus again as well, and to have an extended attack scene from the Mosasaur, because that was something that was sorely lacking in the previous 3 films. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and Jurassic World Dominion. each of those three had the Mosasaurus in it. And it was this constant presence that never got an extended sequence, really. So it was cool to see an actual, it actually trying to get the characters in this one. Finally, after three, on the fourth film with it in, we finally get to see it in action. So that was cool as well. Regarding the hybrids, I wasn't. I'm not a big fan of hybrids. I liked it the first time around with the Indominus Rex from Jurassic World, and I did like the Indoraptor in the follow-up film as well. That was quite cool. But the thing is, with Jurassic World Dominion, there weren't any hybrids, and they gave, I believe, when I read about it, they gave a reasoning as to, we're not doing hybrids anymore. That's been done. So, okay, that's been done. Fair enough. We've seen it twice. Don't need to do it again. But then they do it again. And it's loads of hybrids, loads of different kinds in this film. And I'm not a massive fan of them, to be honest. I just, I know that all of the dinosaurs in these films are as Dr. Alan Grant says in Jurassic Park 3, I think he calls them genetically engineered theme park monsters or something like that. And that's basically what they are. So that's what I like to see them at least trying to be true to how we think they were. But these hybrids just it's just an excuse to make cool toys, I think, to be honest. But then again, you have to bear in mind these films are aimed at a young audience, and so toy sales and things like that are going to factor into things. In the United Kingdom, where I live, it's a different rating system to in America, and the film here was rated 12A, which I think means you can be 12 years old as long as you're accompanied by an adult and up. So if I think of films as whatever their rating is, that's the age that they're aimed at. So this film was aimed at 12-year-olds, basically. So, yeah, I get it. Kids are going to think these things are cool. The new... I'm not sure what they were called, the Raptor Pteranodon hybrids. I do know what the main hybrid was called, though, the one at the end, and we'll come to that in a sec. But yeah, I didn't mind them. It was a cool sequence in the convenience store. It was kind of reminiscent of the very first Jurassic Park with the raptors in the kitchen chasing Lex and Tim. Which makes sense because this film was written by the same guy who wrote the very first film. So if anybody's going to get close to the feel of the original film, it's going to be him, of all people. And I think he came closer than anybody involved in the previous three films, the previous three Jurassic World films. I think, obviously, The Lost World is closer with it being directed by Steven Spielberg, same as the first film. And I like Jurassic Park 3 as well. I think probably just the style of filmmaking in that period of time is what helps it feel closer to the first two films. The Jurassic World onwards have a much more modern kind of digital feel to them, as opposed to analog, is the best way I can describe it. So, when it comes to the main hybrid, the Distortus Rex that we meet at the end, I'm not really a fan, to be honest, because to me it just doesn't resemble a dinosaur at all. It resembles more closely something you would see in, say, Cloverfield or Pacific Rim or one of the MonsterVerse Godzilla films. It just doesn't, I understand the reason why it looks like that. It's a genetic monstrosity. Oh, I should have mentioned before, the island that they're on is an island for basically rejects, things that were made but aren't good enough. They don't meet the requirements, the standards to go into the park, Jurassic World, which obviously is no longer in existence. But yeah, so these animals have been left on this island and they're in the equatorial belt, which is the only place that is climate-wise suitable for the dinosaurs, for most of them. So, and this thing is it's just a monstrosity. It's got 4 legs and 2 arms, so it's got 6 limbs. Its head sort of reminds me of like a beluga whale. It's a big bulbous head, and also it reminds me of a xenomorph from the Alien series of films. But it just isn't dinosaur-like at all to me. I wasn't really satisfied with it. And it had in the trailers you would have thought this was the big bad of the film. But there was no big bad, really. Just a series of different attacks from different dinosaurs. The T-Rex, the hybrid raptor pteranodons, the Quetzalcoatlus as well. That was a cool sequence, actually. Cool scene inside the... because it had built a nest inside... I don't know if they're Mayan ruins or Aztec ruins. I don't know exactly, but they're ruins of a previous South American civilization by the looks of it. And that was a cool sequence. I quite liked it. A lot of peril there. But there wasn't a big bad. And this one, this Distortus Rex, it probably had a screen time of 7 minutes maybe, if that. A few minutes at the start of the film, and then maybe a bit more than 7 minutes. It might be more like, I don't know, 12, 13 minutes. So not really I thought it was going to be stalking them the whole time, like the Spinosaurus did in Jurassic Park 3. So I wasn't entirely satisfied with that. And they only made it look like that because they had to go bigger and more grotesque than what we'd seen before. But that begs the question, when they make the sequel, and this film is doing well apparently, so there's going to be most likely a sequel, an 8th film in the series. And where do they go from there? Is the next one going to literally be just a massive mountain with limbs and 15 eyes, and it's getting a bit ridiculous. I think they should leave the hybrid thing alone. They did it for 2 films. I don't know, but again, yeah, this film is based around the idea that this is an island for rejected dinosaurs, and it's explained that they put them there instead of putting them down because it was like some accounting thing or something. You could carry them over and save money or something, so that's why they're there. So the other thing that gets me with this island is, okay, it's an island for rejects that haven't come out the way they were supposed to and can't go into the park because they're too deformed. They're just too hard to look at, and the guests at the park wouldn't like them. If that's the case, why are there so many healthy looking dinosaurs on this island? I may have missed something early on that explained that, but the titanosaurs, there were loads of them. Loads and loads of them, And I did really like that scene. That was the scene that made me feel wonder close to how I felt watching the very first film. Because there's loads of them, loads and loads of dozens of Titanosaurus all in this valley. And it's really nice. It's got the familiar music as well, so that probably helps with the nostalgia as well. But they all look really healthy. The initial 2 that they see, they're a mating pair, a male and a female, and they're like nuzzling, socializing with each other, just going about doing things, happy as Larry. So what's wrong with them? Why are they on this island? I suppose it's possible they could have some, I don't know, problems with their organs or something, but they just seemed healthy and happy. So why are they on this island? Again, the raptors as well. We did briefly see two velociraptors, I think, and albeit they were out of focus, they were slightly blurry because they were behind that annoying Xavier guy while he was taking a pee in the forest, and you thought one was about to pounce on him, but then the hybrid Pteranodon raptor. I've got to find out the name of that thing. I wonder if anybody's put it in. I'll look through the comments in a sec and see. But those raptors looked perfectly normal as well. So what was wrong with them? You know, and so there were some things that were like, well, I don't understand why they're on this island for the ones that don't meet the requirements to go in the park. But I don't know. Maybe they were just there for. I don't know. I don't know. I can't think of a reason. There may have been a reason that was explained, and I just happened to miss it in the cinema when I was watching the film. Other things I wasn't keen on. I did not like that Xavier character at all. He was so grating. He was just there to do the, what people nowadays call the Marvel humour or MCU humour, where it's just stupid quips that are not funny at all. Something would happen. You're like, oh my god. But then he'd just come out with some stupid thing that's supposed to be funny and it's not, and it just completely diffuses the tension. Like they'll be in the middle of a serious situation and they'll be like, oh, I've got some weed, bro, wanna smoke some weed or something? It's like, shut up. I didn't like that character at all. I thought he might grow on me when his girlfriend, I can't remember her name, fell off the boat. He did immediately dive in to rescue her, so I thought, okay, maybe this guy's not too bad. But then he just kind of kept annoying me. I didn't like him. So, yeah, he bugged me a lot. The other thing I'm not too sure about was Dolores. Now, I'm not sure what breed she was, actually, whether that was just another hybrid or something. Looked sort of like a baby Styracosaurus or a Triceratops or something. It had the crest, but I don't know what she was. She seemed very small and agile for one of them as well. You think a baby Triceratops would be the size of a baby elephant or something. So I don't know what she was. Again, this film primarily aimed at kids. It's she's obviously there to sell toys. So, there was a lot that I did like in this film. I enjoyed the action. I enjoyed the ride, but there was a lot of things that I wasn't massively keen on. Like I said, I saw it last night, so I've had 24 hours to think about it and digest it. So those are my thoughts so far. We'll talk a bit more about it, but I'll get to some comments first. So let's see. Marcus Blackwell says, crushed. I hope you're not crushed by me not... I mean, I did like it. I liked the film. Okay, in the contingency says, and in the next one we'll get dinosaur Lovecraftian horrors beyond comprehension. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I think. It's just going to get bigger and bigger and weirder and uglier, and it doesn't need it, in my opinion. Daniel Alon, yeah, I agree with me. Yeah, the Titanosauruses, they were spectacular. They were really... I think they were probably my favourite part of the film, to be honest. That was my favourite sequence, where it pans up and you see them all, a huge herd of them just walking through that valley. That was really nice. That was a really nice scene. Fred Starr of Britain, welcome. Good to see you again. You were here last time, weren't you? Says, yes, I still don't get why the Titanosaurus have sails, even though there is no evidence it ever had them. Yeah, that's just kind of a thing with Jurassic Park, to be honest. There's no... Like the Dilophosaurus, for example, that didn't spit, so they say, or have a big frill, I don't think. So they just invent stuff to put on it to make it look cool, I guess. In universe, it's to make it more attractive to visitors to the park. So I would say that's the reasoning behind that. Daniel Alon says Mutadon. It's called Mutadon. Is that the... Yeah, you know, when they were in that abandoned lab, I think there was a glass chamber that had a dead one in, and it had two heads, and it said Mutadon on that. So it must be... Yeah, okay, so they're called Mutadon. All right, fair enough. Thanks for letting me know. The contingency... Please tell me he got what was coming to him. I assume you're referring to Xavier. Sadly not. I was really, really hoping that he would get eaten, to be honest. But no, he survived. Basically, everyone survived. That's the thing. The only people who died were background characters who didn't have very much to do. There was the French-speaking guy. He got eaten by the Quetzalcoatlus. There was the lady with the short hair. That was kind of a cool sequence where she got attacked and eaten by the Spinosaurus on the beach, because she's messing about with the... I forget what it was. Was it like a big sort of a crate of supplies or something like that that had washed up onto the beach with them? She was messing about with that, and you saw the Spinosaurus. It was lying on its side in the shallow part of the water on the shore, and then it just sort of gets up like that. You see its spine go up, and then it crawls behind her, and you're like, is it going to attack, or is that just there to make us think it's going to happen? And then it does. So that was a cool sequence. I did like that. But yeah, barely anybody died though. Barely anybody got eaten. Even at the end, the character played by Mahershala Ali, you thought he was making the big sacrifice to save them all, but then he just survived. Somehow you don't even see it. He's just, you see the flare. She's kind of watching off in the dark distance. You can't see what's happening. All you can see is the flare, and excuse me, and then it goes out, and you're like, okay, that's because he's been swallowed. But then shortly afterwards, he's just waving another flare. They spot him. They go and rescue him. So I don't know. Was it in all of these big actors' contracts that I can't die in the film or something? Because none of them died. None of the family died. I thought if anyone was going to, it would be the dad of the family. But he didn't either. So it's just, I don't know. The stakes weren't very high in this one. Maybe they were just trying to make it family friendly. Although the sleazy businessman who, of course, turned out to be a creep, because obviously he was going to be. It struck me how throughout the film we'd seen quite a lot of product placement for Snickers. The very beginning of the film, it's all kicked off by a Snickers wrapper, isn't it, being sucked in and causing a malfunction in the computing, the infrastructure of the lab. So that was Snickers there. Then when they're in the convenience store, Snickers, along with other things, prominently displayed. So there was a lot of Snickers in this film. And then that sleazy guy right at the end, he's picked up by the Distortus Rex, and he's literally eaten like a Snickers bar. It's holding him in one hand. It just goes, arr, like that. And it eats. It just... I don't know, I just thought that was funny at the time. I thought, I've seen Snickers throughout the film. I must have Snickers on the brain. And then the dinosaur eats him like a Snickers bar. I just thought that was quite funny. But yeah, so a few people died. The guy who was obviously the bad guy died. But barely anyone else did, apart from a few essentially background characters. Let's see. El Claudio says, probably don't even the writers of the movie knows how the failed dinos survived 30 years alone. Yeah, exactly. It was written by the guy who wrote the very first film, so you think he'd be able to string together something reasonably coherent, but I don't know. Yeah. Because if they were so mutated, so distorted, then how, they managed to survive okay. They seemed pretty mobile. I don't know, it's just maybe they were just deemed too ugly more than anything, and that's literally the only thing that meant they couldn't go into the park. Right, Daniel Alon says Aqualops. Aqualops. Which one is the Aqualops? El Claudio says Microceratops. Oh, that must be Dolores then. Microceratops. Is that a hybrid or a real... That must be a hybrid. I've never heard of a Microceratops before. Let's see. Yep, Daniel says the Velociraptor Pteranodon hybrid is called a Mutodon. Cool, thanks for confirming. Ah, good point, Oscar. So this refers to the previous point. Who said that before? I can't see the original comment. But somebody mentioning the Titanosaurs having a sail. Oscar makes a good point. He says maybe the sail was the mistake. And that's why they're on the island. Yeah, good thinking. Good thinking. Daniel Alon, perfect example of chaos theory. Yep. Ian Malcolm tried to warn us all those years ago. Tried to warn us. See. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Daniel Alon says, I like that about the mutant. So, yeah, fair enough. You know, I'm not knocking anybody who does like it. I'm just, for me, it didn't really work. But then again, saying that, this film does strike me as one that I will probably start to like upon repeated watches. So maybe in a couple of years I might watch it again. That was the case for me with the first Jurassic World. At the time I thought, this is okay, but I mean that was the first one we'd had since Jurassic Park 3, so I suppose I was expecting it to be very reminiscent of the old films, but it was kind of had a more modern feel. So, you know, but upon rewatching that one again, I quite like it. I quite like it as a film. And then Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, I really liked that one first time around, but started to like it a bit less with repeated viewings. And then Dominion is just awful. I've only seen it once and I don't really plan to see that one again. Let's see, Oscar says, Snickers, I would laugh so much if Andy Ruiz Jr. would be in the movie. If someone know anything about HW boxing, knows what I'm talking about. I don't follow boxing, I'm afraid. But is there a connection between Andy Ruiz Jr. and Snickers? Is he sponsored by Snickers? Dolores is an Aqualops. It's an actual dinosaur. Oh, okay. I've never heard of an Aqualops before. Okay, if it's a real dinosaur, then, yeah, fair enough. But again, why was she on the... And she was very young, so she'd only... What is she? A year or two old? That was something... When me and my fiancée were in the car, we were driving home, we were talking about the film. And she said to me that she thought the Aqualops, I didn't know it was called that then, we just called her Dolores, but she thought that Dolores's mother was going to factor into the story somehow, like she was going to be angry that these people had her and was going to get the wrong idea and was going to charge, and you know that would be another attack. But no, there was no... This little Dolores, the Aqualops, was essentially an orphan, I suppose. No parents in sight, which is sad, especially for a dinosaur so young. You think she'd be sticking with her family, with her herd at that age, but no. And they took her with them as well, which I think is grossly irresponsible, especially seeing as where they live, all the dinosaurs that were all, you know, in that part of the world, in every part of the world except for this equatorial belt, had all died because the conditions weren't right for them. So they're taking this little dinosaur off the only island it can survive on, or the only region of the world it can survive in, and they're taking it home. And how big is it going to get? I mean, okay, if it's... well, yeah, and I don't know how big the Aqualops gets, but surely it's too big to keep in your house or in your garden. So, very irresponsible. They should have left her there. Yeah, another thing that was a bit odd about the film. Fred Starr of Britain says, while I was listening to the Flesh video in the background, I somewhat was reminded of the Carnivores games. It's basically a hunting game where you are dropped on an alien planet full of dinosaurs. That sounds cool. You know, there's a... I don't know if it's just me and I just haven't been looking hard enough, but I think there's a distinct lack of good dinosaur games. I've recently been playing Jurassic World Evolution, you know, the park builder game, here and there. Been enjoying that. I used to really like the Turok games as well. They had dinosaurs in. But there seems to be not many good dinosaur games. So that one, if it's called the Carnivores games. So I'm guessing the series is called Carnivore or Carnivores. Keep an eye out for that. That resemble outdated depictions from paleo art. Right, I see. Yeah, it's often the case, isn't it? You don't really get to have an idea of what a dinosaur is for very long before it changes. Okay. Fred Star of Britain says, and what's crazy is that Ceratosaurus is T-Rex sized and that the Spinosaurus is a lot smaller than the real animal itself. Yeah, again, it's all over the place with depictions and how they really were. See, okay. Oh, okay. El Claudio says it's an Aqualops and Dolores is an adult. Oh, okay. So that's... I assumed it was a baby. Okay, so an Aqualops only gets a couple of feet long. Alright, that makes more sense. So it's about the size of an otter or something like that. You could conceivably keep one of those as a pet, I suppose, if it's tame. That one was friendly, happy to be carried around in a backpack. So, okay, fair enough. I'll take the L on that one. Let's see. Daniel Alon says, I remember playing one dinosaur game where you were stalked by the Indoraptor. Ooh, sounds intriguing. It reminds me of another good dinosaur game I forgot to mention, Dino Crisis. Awesome. Very scary. Resident Evil, but with dinosaurs. I really want them to remake that. They've been remaking all of the Resident Evil games. They should remake Dino Crisis. I don't know why they haven't. Let's see. He was stalking you in the dark while you needed to turn the power back on. It was scary as hell, I can imagine. It was called Jurassic Lockdown. Oh, okay, so... yeah, Jurassic Lockdown. Never heard of it, but... sounds intriguing. Yeah. You know, another thing that I wasn't overly keen on in this film. Sorry, it feels like I'm being quite negative about the film. I did like it. I did enjoy it. I did enjoy the ride. But just thinking about it, there are quite a lot of flaws. Or even not so much flaws, but just creative choices that I'm not too keen on. And one is it explains at the start of this film that the dinosaurs not around the equator have all died because of the conditions. It's too cold for them. The plant life isn't correct for them, and it's just a completely different world to what it was 65 million years ago, or however many millions of years ago they lived. So basically the entirety of the previous three films was kind of pointless, because, you know, in Fallen Kingdom, for example, all the dinosaurs escape and they end up living in our world, and the whole build-up is, oh right, okay, this is a new status quo, a new era that we're entering, where humans and dinosaurs are going to have to live alongside each other, and it's going to be a very different world to what we knew before. And yeah, this is the new, this is how we live now. But then in this film, it's just like, oh, actually, they all just died from the cold. Sorry, bro. So, oh, okay. So Ian Malcolm's big speech in the courtroom, you know, doesn't really mean anything, does it? Because they all just died. So, I don't know. Maybe they didn't want to carry on with the dinosaurs in the wider world. Maybe they just decided they didn't want to carry on with that line of like the story. But yeah, it just rendered the previous three films. You might as well have not made them, to be honest. Contingency says, I remember there being a horror game set in like 1930 or something, where you were going through trenches while being hunted by a velociraptor looking one with, I believe, mechanical augmentations. Wow, that sounds good. That sounds very interesting. Must be an indie game. I've never heard of that. I don't suppose you know the title of it? Because if it's cheap, I may get that from Steam, because that sounds really good. Fred Star of Britain says, another thing to mention is that there's a total conversion mod called Carnivores Triassic. It features a Gojirasaurus, which is essentially a 1998 Godzilla, but with theropod proportions and a horn, and that some parts, including the mouth, are glowing green. Wow. Carnivores Triassic. And it's the size of the 1998 Godzilla as well. That sounds hard to kill in a one-on-one. I wouldn't fancy my chances. Excuse me for just one moment, I'm just going to have a drink. Right, sorry about that. Thank you for waiting. One Silly Moogle, welcome. Good to see you. Good to have you. Especially since there's still 2 full days left at the summer Steam sale. Yeah, cool. So I may get it for cheap. I may get some of those games for cheap. I'm going to have to make a note of a bunch of these and have a look. When I buy games, I tend not to spend very much. I mean, I'm quite happy to wait for years and years with a game in my wish list for it to become really cheap, like less than £10 cheap. Because, these are digital copies of the games. So I don't want to spend too much on something that may just disappear at some point. If there's a physical copy, I'd probably be happy to spend a bit more. But as it is, I just have a gaming laptop and I just buy games off Steam, just download them. So I want to wait for them to be really cheap. That's what I did with Cyberpunk. I think I had that in my wish list for probably 2 years, just waiting for it to come down. And eventually it did come down when it was on offer for maybe £12 or something like that. So I was like, yep, I'll get it then. I don't want to spend £60 on it. Too much. The contingency says, fortunately found it after a bit of searching. It's called 1916, The Unknown War. Cool. I'll have a look for that one. Let's see. Oh, okay. Fred Star of Britain says, no, it's like the size of a large theropod. Oh, okay, fair enough. So it's not the size of 1998 Godzilla. It just kind of looks like it. Okay. Sorry about that. Just getting a bit dry. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I have to say on the new film. Like I said, I did enjoy it. I enjoyed the ride. I went in not wanting to pick it apart because I was like, okay, look, it's a Jurassic World film. It's a modern Jurassic World film. It's never going to come anywhere close to the original film, Jurassic Park. So even with the original guy writing it, it's not going to have the same feel to it or anything like that. So I just went in, kind of switched my brain off, and I was like, yep, I'll just enjoy it. I'll just sit back and enjoy it. And I did. It was entertaining. Very entertaining film. So I will watch it again at some point, in a couple of years maybe, and see if my opinion has changed at all. And yeah, like I said before, the film is doing well. The critics don't like it, but the critics generally don't like Jurassic Park or Jurassic World films at all. But audiences really do like them. So if it's doing well financially, then it's going to get a sequel in a few years. We'll see where they go from there. We'll see if it just goes full on Lovecraftian monstrosity for the big bad in this one. I do really hope they don't go with hybrids again. I hope they don't. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I've got to say on that. What did you all think of the, if you've watched it, the recent video I did on Flesh, the 2000 AD comic? Because it's been, yeah, I thought this would be a good time, with that video having just come out, this would be a good time to go and see Jurassic World. Then when I do the live stream, I can make it a very dinosaur-y live stream. Dinosaur themed today. So if you saw the video, let me know, what did you think of it? What did you think of the story? I thought it was very enjoyable. I do really like 2000 AD because it has a really irreverent tone, very satirical, generally quite funny, sort of, because it's a. I mean, obviously the humour resonates with me because it's a British magazine, written for the most part by Brits. So, and we have a bit of a distinct, dry, sardonic sense of humour. So it obviously, a lot of the stuff in there does resonate with me quite a bit. So I really like the story. Let's see. Oscar says, man and dinos would not coexist. Man is too dominant, so really no point to continue it. So they made shortcut to write it off. Yeah, fair enough. It's probably not something you could sustain over multiple films. I think they did strain a bit to go over 2 films with it, so carrying it on as a permanent fixture in the storyline that would be tricky, to be honest. Yeah, so I'm kind of glad they ended it, because there wasn't really anywhere else it could go. So yeah, but again, it does, in my view, it renders the previous 3 films kind of pointless, because everything just died. You know, between Jurassic World Dominion and this film. So yeah, so yeah, I did really enjoy Flesh. I've only read book 1 of that. There's quite a bit, actually. There's 2 hardback issues of it, and I've read, and not even book 1 as in issue 1. It's just I think when it was published in 2000 AD on a weekly basis, book 1 comprises issues 1 to 19. So that's what I've read so far. Gonna have to read the rest and probably make another video on it if there's, you know, if I can think of anything else to say on it. So yeah, kind of my thoughts on Jurassic World Rebirth and Flesh. Good dinosaur stories. So yeah, we're coming up on an hour, so I might call it a day when we reach past. I do appreciate everyone coming back though. 12 concurrent viewers, that's pretty good. It's about the same as last time, so I was worried about a slight drop off on this one, because I didn't know if anyone was going to be interested in me talking about the Jurassic World film. It's a little bit outside of the general scope of the channel. I like to keep it, but yeah, I like to keep things within certain parameters. But then I thought, you know, the live streams aren't the videos, so you can just do basically anything as long as it's tangentially science fiction related. And I think Jurassic World qualifies there, so I decided to make this stream about that. And yeah, and I do appreciate you all coming back. It's been a pretty good stream, to be honest. Yeah, good amount of views, good amount of likes. Gonna have to check out some of those games that you all recommended as well. Yeah. Alright, so we've been nearly an hour. I think we'll call it a day for there. But yeah, thanks for coming. I do have a Patreon. If you want to support the channel, if you support me directly, that would be very, very much appreciated. I do appreciate you all coming back and watching. And yeah, I'll be back next Monday for the next live stream. I'm not sure what it'll be about yet. Yeah, and in the meantime, I'm just going to be working on my next video. I don't know how many of you out there have seen a film. It's called Hardware. It's from 1990. It's a futuristic cyberpunk science fiction horror film. It's very good. Very good film. It's rapidly becoming one of my favourite films. I've watched it a handful of times. And I'm currently writing the script for that video, which will be out on Friday. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Let's see, Ian says, Flesh was surreal and really reflects the 90s depictions of the futuristic genre. It does. It does. It's and it was also ahead of its time in some ways, because it has depictions of dinosaurs with that in the story. They're called furry tyrannosaurs. And furry, yeah, I know, but that's just what they're called in this. And they do look like tyrannosaurs with feathers, which was very ahead of its time. You know, it's about 40 odd years before that became a commonly accepted idea of what the tyrannosaurs were. So it was very of its time in its idea of what the future will be, but it was also ahead of its time in that regard, which I think is quite cool. Yeah. Oh, that's another thing about this film as well, Jurassic World Rebirth. There were, as far as I could see, there were no feathered dinosaurs at all. That became a thing in Jurassic World Dominion. You had quite a few feathered dinosaurs there. There was I can't remember what it's called, but it's a type of raptor. And it was very, very, very head to toe feathers. I can't remember what it's called. What was that one called? Let me know. The Contingency says, haven't seen the video, though by the looks of it, seems something right up my alley. I'll have to check the video out. Yeah, please do. That video's doing quite well. So in YouTube Studio, you get like a out of 10 ranking, and that's based on your last 10 videos that you've released. And this one's 1 of 10, apparently. You know, views are higher than usual. Click-through rate, that's you know, how many clicks it gets is higher than usual. And people are watching it for longer as well, so this one's done quite well. I'd recommend everyone go and watch it, because I had a lot of fun making that video as well. Yeah, it was cool to do something a bit different. I really liked making that video. So yeah, go and check it out. Yeah, so yeah, if there's no more questions or anything, I think we could probably call this stream a day. It's gone for an hour, which is pretty good. I'll give it a few moments just in case anyone has any last minute questions or messages or anything like that. But yeah, once again, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. It's good to have you all here. And yeah, so right, doesn't look like there's any more comments. So thanks for watching. I'll see you on Friday for the next video about Hardware. It's a really, really good film. You know, if you get time this week, try and find Hardware. I don't know where it's being streamed or anything like that, but it's a really good film. It's from 1990. There's no CGI or anything. It's all practical. Great film, great atmosphere. Really, just, you know, exact kind of thing that I like, and I think you'll all like it as well. So yeah, go and check out that film ahead of this Friday's video about Hardware. So yeah, alright, thanks for watching everyone. Have a good week, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.